Right now, as you watch this, 700 ships are sitting motionless in the Persian Gulf, not broken down, not waiting for a berth, waiting to find out if they will be attacked. 700 ships, loaded, engines running, going nowhere. On those ships, heating fuel for European homes, petrochemical feedstock for Japanese factories, raw materials for plastics, fertilizers, medicines, the physical foundation of the modern economy, sitting in the water, surrounded by warships, while military commanders on both sides calculate their next move. The Strait of Hormuz is 21 kilometers wide at its narrowest point. Through it flows 20% of the world's oil every single day, 1 barrel every 4 seconds, around the clock, every day, until now. As of today, Iran has threatened to strike any vessel attempting to pass. Insurance underwriters in London have suspended coverage for Gulf transits, and those 700 captains are doing the only rational thing left to them: waiting. Here is what nobody in the mainstream news is telling you clearly. This does not stay in the Persian Gulf. This is already in your country. It is already moving toward your fuel pump, your grocery store, your electricity bill. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how and give you a precise forecast of what happens to prices in the next 14 days. Let me give you the clearest possible picture of where things stand today. The Strait of Hormuz and the surrounding Persian Gulf have been declared a zone of military operations. Iranian naval forces have positioned assets throughout the waterway. Threats have been issued against any vessel attempting transit. International shipping companies have begun emergency rerouting around the Cape of Good Hope, adding 12,000 kilometers and 3 weeks to every journey. China, which receives 40% of its oil through the strait, has formally requested that Iran allow its tankers through. That request has not been answered. The United States Fifth Fleet, 20,000 personnel, multiple carrier groups, permanently stationed in Bahrain, is at its highest readiness level in years. Military analysts are calling the next 72 hours the most dangerous period for global shipping since the tanker war of the 1980s. And oil markets have already reacted. Futures prices jumped the moment the blockade was confirmed. Not because oil ran out, because expectation changed. And in modern financial markets, changed expectation and changed reality produce identical price movements immediately. You do not live near the Persian Gulf. You may never have thought about the Strait of Hormuz before today. So let me be precise about why this is already affecting you personally. Everything in the modern economy runs on oil, not just fuel. Everything. The plastic packaging on your food, the synthetic fibers in your clothing, the fertilizer that grew the vegetables on your table, all of it derived from petroleum, all of it priced on one silent assumption: that oil flows continuously from the Gulf to global markets. When that flow stops, two things happen simultaneously. And this is the part most news coverage misses. The first is the physical shortage. It builds slowly. Strategic reserves exist. Alternative routes are being used. But every day the strait stays blocked, those reserves draw down. American strategic reserves cover 37 days. European mandatory reserves cover roughly 90 days. After that, there is nothing. The second happens immediately, not in 37 days, not in 90 days, right now. Financial markets price the future shortage into today's contracts. That price travels through every connected market within hours. Airlines revise fuel hedges. Shipping companies announce surcharges. Manufacturers that use petroleum-based raw materials revise their production cost projections upward. By the time the physical shortage reaches your country, the price increase has already happened. You're paying for a shortage that has not arrived yet. That is how modern commodity markets work. The financial impact of a blockade begins the moment it is announced, not the moment it ends. To understand the scale of what is happening, you need one comparison. In 1973, the Arab oil embargo removed 7% of global oil supply. The Strait of Hormuz was not touched, no military action in the waterway itself, just a political decision to reduce exports by 7%. Oil prices quadrupled in 4 months. Every Western economy entered recession simultaneously. Japan came within weeks of industrial shutdown, 7%, straight untouched. Global recession. The Strait of Hormuz carries 20% of global supply. Not 7%, 20%. And it is not reduced. It is blocked. In 2019, drone strikes hit one Saudi oil facility, temporarily removing 7% of supply for a matter of days. Oil jumped 15% in a single day, the largest single-day spike ever recorded at that point. One facility, 7%. A few days, 15% spike. Now you have the numbers. Do the mathematics yourself. Not everyone loses equally. Some are already winning. American shale oil producers in Texas and North Dakota are watching their valuations rise in real time. Every barrel of Gulf oil that cannot reach the market is a barrel of American oil that sells at a premium. The United States became the world's largest oil producer in 2018. A prolonged Gulf crisis does not devastate the American economy the way 1973 did. For parts of it, this is a windfall. Russia, selling oil outside the Gulf system, benefits from every dollar the price rises. Sanctions have compressed Russian oil revenue for years. A global supply shock removes that compression instantly. The countries that lose hardest are those with no alternatives. Japan imports 87% of its oil through Hormuz. South Korea 78%. India 60%. These are not marginal economies. They are the manufacturing core of the global supply chain. Their pain becomes your prices because the products they make, the components they supply, the ships they operate all become more expensive simultaneously. This is what matters to you right now. Not history, not geopolitics. What happens to prices in the next 2 weeks? Here is the honest forecast based on what we know today. Days 1 through 3. Oil futures have already moved. Fuel prices at pumps will begin adjusting within 48 to 72 hours in most countries. The increases will be modest at first, 5 to 10%, because retailers are still selling existing inventory purchased at pre-blockade prices. This is the window where most people will think the situation is not serious. It is the most dangerous moment for complacency. Days 4 through 7. If the blockade holds, the second wave hits. Shipping surcharges begin appearing on imported goods. Airlines announce fuel surcharges on tickets purchased from this point forward. Supermarket supply chains, which operate on razor-thin, just-in-time inventory, begin feeling the pressure from transportation cost increases. Prices on imported goods start moving. Days 8 through 14. This is the decision point. If diplomatic resolution happens before day 10, prices partially retreat, but not to pre-blockade levels. Markets do not fully unwind fear. A 20% spike followed by resolution typically settles 8 to 12% above the starting point permanently. The world reprices the risk it just discovered was real. If the blockade holds past day 14 with no resolution in sight, we enter territory that has no modern precedent. The 1973 comparison is the closest historical reference. And in 1973, the Strait was not involved. Only 7% of supply was affected, and it still produced a global recession. The 700 ships are still waiting. The clock is running, and the price of the next 2 weeks depends entirely on decisions being made right now in rooms you and I will never enter. What you can do is understand what is happening before it arrives at your door, because it is already on its way.